Hello everyone, welcome back to Super A to Z. This is episode 7 of my journey through the Super Nintendo back catalogue from A to Z. My name is James, and this week's episode is all around Actraiser 1 and 2, another double bill with quite a bit of a difference in opinion on the two different games, but we'll get into that shortly. So yeah, this is the second time that I have recorded this. I wasn't happy at all with the outcome of the first time, so I'm not sure when you're all going to be listening to this. But yeah, we'll get started. We'll get into it straight away. So I'm going to go in with Actraiser 1, funnily enough, and we're going to follow the usual pattern. Unsurprisingly, the people behind Actraiser 2 were all basically the same, so there won't be a great deal to say about that when it comes to it, but there is a little bit to say about it now. So we'll start. Actraiser was published by Enix. I talked about Enix in episode 2, 7th Saga, so I won't go back into what they have done. You're already aware of them. Developed by a company called Quintet, and was released in 1990 in Japan, 91 in America, and 93 over here. So quite a big wait between the two. So quite an early Super Nintendo game for the Japanese audience, and a bit of a middle of the road era one for us. Quintet, the developer, they also developed Illusion of Gaia, Robotrek, Terranigma. No real household names nowadays, but back then these were all quite big games for the Super Nintendo. Illusion of Gaia is one that has, I believe, had a remake recently. I'm not 100% sure, but if not, that game is one that is still talked about now. The other two were very, very popular games at the time, but not really. No franchise came from them, nothing else. But yeah, a fairly well-established developer who kind of just fell off the face of the earth in the early 2000s, I believe. I think their last game was a Game Boy Advance game, and then they just disappeared. So it's assumed that they are now a defunct company, but never officially declared bankrupt or anything like that, it would seem. So we'll start, as we always do, by taking a little look at the credits for the game. So having a look at this, one of the programmers was called Yuki Imai, and they only worked on this game and nothing else afterwards, which is always interests me, because I always wonder what happened to this person. Why did they work on a very popular, very well-established game and then just disappear? Were they maybe just not interested in gaming as a programming and wanted to use it as a stepping stone into something else? I did try and Google them a little bit. I went on LinkedIn to see if I could find anyone, but I can't seem to find what happened to this person. And if they were interested in gaming, it's just surprising that they worked on such a popular game and then just disappeared off the face of the earth. But that's what happened with this particular person. There were 3 graphic designers of note on this game. Ayano Kishoro. They worked on graphic design on Sonic and Streets of Rage 2, among a lot of other games, but those were the 2 really big ones. Suho Imai is still working in gaming today. Was actually the director for Pac-Man World 2 Repack that came out this year, 2025. And Koji Yokota did localization for all the Danganronpa games, which are visual novel games, but with a bit more gameplay to them than a lot of visual novel games have. I really like the Danganronpa games, even though I'm not a visual novel person at all. They're kind of there's 3 main games in the series, and they are like battle royale style games. One of them, they're all locked in a school and essentially have to kill each other, but the conceit, the hook is every time someone dies, there's a trial, and you have to determine who killed them and defend yourself in the trial, all that sort of thing. And yeah, really interesting, good fun games. Definitely worth a look if you're into that kind of thing. And they also did map design for Paper Mario Sticker Star for 3DS. So some fairly well-known games in that group of people. The music for this game was done by Yuzo Koshiro, and the music in this game is amazing. I really did love it, and they have such a big credit list because obviously everyone else loved it as well. They've done music for Streets of Rage 1, 2, 3, and 4, Sonic, Batman Returns, Shenmue, Castlevania Portrait of Ruin, Super Smash Bros. Brawl, Super Smash Bros. For 3DS and Wii U, Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, and the remake for Actraiser in 2021 as well, right up to this year's release of Shinobi Art of Vengeance, which is an incredible game, well worth a look if you're into that sort of thing, and incredible music. And this musician has had such a storied career throughout gaming, which is, again, it's interesting to see where they kind of not started, because they did have games before this, but this was really a big stepping off point. Shigeki Maruyama was an assistant producer on this game and was the producer for Seventh Saga, which again I've already talked about in episode 2, but it just shows that Enix do continue to use quite a few of the same people in their games, and that was kind of it really for the credits of this game. So before we get on to the gameplay, I will, as I always do, take a look at the box art for this game. Now, Actraiser 1 box art is fairly straightforward, fairly simple. The front of it is quite nice. It's nothing to sort of shout home about. It's a lightning storm over the pyramids of Giza, which looks really cool. I didn't get the impression the game was set on Earth though, so quite strange that was the case. With the Actraiser logo at the top, fairly simple, straightforward front cover for that really. The back of the box, very nicely laid out. You've got 4 bold screenshots that show every aspect of the game. On the back of the box it says action and simulation game. This sensational game combines pulse-stopping action sequences with an intelligent simulation mode, allowing the player to forge a new civilization. Finally experience a game that fully utilises the advanced capabilities of the Super NES. Restore peace and order to your people's world. Then underneath that there's a big blurb about the story, which I won't read in full, and then a little bit more about the game. Action mode, breathe life into the statue modelled after your likeness to cleanse the land and defeat the monsters who have conquered. Simulation mode, help your people develop a new land from that which has been purified and build towns with your powers. So, fairly simple, but definitely an accurate representation of the game. The box art I may well have built a bit of interest looking at the box art as a kid, but maybe not. I don't know. It's hard to say. It's quite dreary, but it's a nice image, and like I say, the box on the back explains the game very well. So with all that said, now let's get into the important stuff and have a little talk about the gameplay. So Actraiser is part hack and slash platformer, part god game. It does have fairly basic graphics, really good music, as I've said, and the gameplay, the hack and slash moments of the gameplay are very basic. It's a very basic Golden Axe kind of thing. Essentially, you are God, and you have an assistant that is this little cherub angel person, and you're up in this. It looks like a UFO, but it's referred to as a sky fortress, I believe. And you're up in this, and you speak to your little angel friend, and it gives you options where you can assign yourself some magic for the level you're about to go into. You can move your sky fortress around, that sort of thing. If you move your sky fortress around, you get a top-down view of the map, and you are flying over the map, and each area of the map is a different level. So you fly over the first area of the map, and you get the option to go down onto ground level. When you do this, you sort of possess a statue in your image, and that starts your 2D, your hack and slash platformer level. So every area starts off with one of these levels where you clear out some monsters so that you can get your settlers to come in. And the hack and slash parts are the least impressive parts of the game. They're not bad by any stretch of the imagination. They're still really fun. They're just quite basic, and you can tell it's a 1990 game. Mechanically, it's fine. There's no bad controls. It's just quite simple. So you go down, you possess your statue, and you make your way through the level. The levels look fine. They're nothing extravagant. The sprites are nice. The boss sprites are all very original, very different. The areas are all very original and different biomes for different towns and different areas. And it's very simple, very straightforward, but fun enough to keep you going. Not too difficult where it becomes frustrating, but not a complete walk in the park either. A good balance. So you finish your level, you beat your boss, and then you go back up above the area in your Sky Palace, and there's a temple. You go to this temple, and two people pray to you, and when they pray to you, they're talking to you essentially, and they want to set up a town. So your objective at this point is to help them build this town and make it up as best as it possibly can be. To do this, the game turns into a god game, like I said, but also a bit of a shooter, a top-down shooter as well. Essentially, you tell your settlers which direction to build in, and they build roads. And as they build roads, they build houses alongside the roads, and the town starts to build up. On the roads, on the ground, essentially, there are these demon portals, and that's where these monsters spawn from. These monsters fly around the map, and they either destroy buildings and farms, or they kidnap your settlers, or they just attack you directly. You are, at this point, you're controlling the little cherub angel, and you are flying above the town, and you are shooting at these monsters to stop them from kidnapping and destroying and all this sort of thing. All the while, you are aiming to get your settlers to build towards these spawn points, because when they do create a prayer circle around it, they cleanse it, and then the monster can no longer spawn there. Some of these spawn points are blocked by certain things that you have to use God-given powers to get through. So there might be a big forest blocking one of them, and you can use lightning to burn through the trees, and then they can build their road through the forest, cleanse the monster, and then move on to the next one. Once you've cleared all of these monster spawn portals, you then have to fight the boss at the end, and then the town is completely safe. While you're doing all this, the people are praying to you, they're offering you tokens, the first village, they learn how to build bridges, and so they pray to you, and they give you an offering of knowledge of how to build a bridge, so that when you move on to other towns, you can teach these people how to build bridges, and so the towns can be built in a better way. And as you do it, every town, every area, there gets to be a little bit of a story. So maybe a child will go missing, and they say, oh, he went off towards the eerie looking temple in the distance, kind of thing, and you have to go and fight the boss there. And once you do, the child comes back. There's a plague in one of the towns, and one of the people that prays to you gets sick, and to cure that plague, you have to move on to another town, and one of their offerings is a cure for a plague, and then you go back, you cure the plague. There's a lot of variety, and the building aspect, again, very basic but really interesting for the time, especially for a console release. And I just loved it. I loved watching these people build these roads and these towns. You had these god powers, so you've got your lightning power to destroy trees, but you also have a power to create rain. So in the dry biome, you can help them grow crops by making sure that the ground is wet enough. There's earthquake that you can do to create a physical change in the actual world, so that the town can build over what was once a small bit of ocean over to a peninsula, but you can create an earthquake to make land appear, and so you can reach this particular monster spawn, all while these monsters are trying to cause you problems, and you've got to shoot at them to get rid of them. It sounds like it might be a bit much, but it does kind of work. You do feel quite on top of everything. And some of the offerings that the people give you are bonuses that you can use, more powerful attacks, and things like that for your little cherub guy. Really interesting, really engaging, and those were my absolute favourite parts of the game. You do your hack and slash level, and then you build your town, and you've got to kind of work out what god power you need to use to make sure that you can get your people to each of these monster spawners to clear them, and then the town builds, and they get their farms and their crops, and yeah, really for the time, so ahead of its time, and so much fun in its simplicity because it wasn't too complicated. It was so easy to play, but kind of hard to not master, because there's nothing really much to master, but you do have to think about what you're doing. It's not mind-numbing, and to see the progress of each of these towns is really, really interesting. One town will learn to make particularly nice warm coats, and that will be an offering. And then when you get to the northern region of the map and it's all icy, you can then pass those coats down to your subjects. Then obviously once you have built the town up, they will say, we've seen something suspicious over here, whatever it is. You fly over, and the same as at the start, you go back down again, you possess your statue, and you've got your 2D hack and slash part of the game again. Like I say, the boss sprites are really good, really well designed. The boss fights are well designed as well. They're not just your basic, just like hit as much as you can. You do have to think about the fights. And overall, it's just such a solid, fun game. And I can't recommend it enough. I will play this game again. It will be one that I do play more than once. And yeah, just beginning to end, the whole thing I really, really enjoyed. And also the music as well, which I did mention earlier. Fantastic, really, really good music. I just can't say enough good things about this game, and as we are about to get into the reviews, we're about to find out that other people couldn't stop saying good things about this game as well. So I found a huge amount about this game. So many reviews, so many previews, some really nice double-page adverts, which I will put on the blog post that goes along with this episode. The blog post may be running a little bit later, but it will come up over the next day or so. The reviews were all incredibly positive, and so many of them gave multiple-page reviews. So I'm not going to read quite as much as I have in previous episodes, but I will give you the roundup of the scores and things like that. The first thing I found was it made number 75 in EGM's 100 Best Games of All Time in EGM November 97 issue. So quite a few years later after release, still showing up in huge things like that. There was a preview for it in EGM's April 91 issue. There was a preview in GamePro of April 91. And then the first review that I found came from Mean Machines in April of 91. They had a 3-page review for it and gave it 91%. And this is what they had to say about the things that they rated it on. Presentation, they gave 92%. Excellent in-game presentation plus an arcade game option. Graphics, 91%. Some graphics in the God section are a little basic, but in the arcade sections, prepare to be more than impressed. Sound, 96%. Incredible medieval tunes are heard in half the game and superb cinematic epic scores in the other. Playability 91%. Once the bizarre control is sussed on the strategy, it's fun all the way. The action game's challenging and exciting. Lastability 86%. With 6 huge levels and an incredibly difficult finale, it's no easy task to finish this. Overall 91%. A brilliant game that has it all. A chubby cherub, tons of action and massive monsters. Who could ask for more? So very strong review to start it off with there. After that, CVG in May of 91 gave it a 4-page review. They rated it 95%. GamePro in July of 91 gave it a mention in their overseas prospects. And Games X, a new magazine that I've not looked at before, in their July 91 gave it a review of 91%. Video Games and Computer Entertainment in November of 91 gave sound a 10, graphics a 10, playability a 9, and overall a 10 out of 10 rating. And GamePro gave it a full review in January of 92, and they gave it their top rating. They don't do number ratings in GamePro, but their top rating for graphics, sound, gameplay, fun factor, and challenge. It had so much in all of these different magazines. This game was universally loved. EGM also released a video game buyer's guide in 1992, and it rounded up 4 opinions on their writers, and they scored it an 8. This game is the perfect melding of Populous and Castlevania, with strategy segments that lead into incredibly detailed action sequences. The building sections are straightforward enough, and while the battle scenes lack power-ups, the detail in animation and sound is amazing. The next writer gave it an 8. I liked quest games, and this is the best ever made. The gameplay is perfect, not too hard to make it frustrating, but challenging to make it difficult. Graphics and audio are what the SNES is all about. Superb. Finding a game better than this is going to be hard to do. Next one gave it a 7. This game is one of the best games that is out for the Super NES. The graphics and gameplay are uncomparable to others, and the music is absolutely awesome. Now only in the game a intense action game, but it has a little RPG in it, to which makes the game fun. That part doesn't read right at all, but that is how it's written, so I don't really know what they're trying to say, but yeah, they're saying action and RPG. And then the last writer gave it a 9. Truly awesome. This is the quest RPG game which all others will be comparable to, no matter what system the game is on. Unbelievable music, which is a soundtrack rather than just random noise. The graphics are spectacular and the quest challenging. So EGM, I really shit on them last time, with good reason. This time round, a little bit more positive, and they clearly love the game, and I think if they love the game, they give it a good play, which is all they should do, really. So yeah, some really, really strong reviews for this title. I did also find a mention of Quintet coding Actraiser 64 in the EGM of June 97. I did a bit of Googling, tried to find as much as I possibly could, and I could not find another mention of this anywhere else, which is a real shame, because the idea of this game in the 64 era is really intriguing, and I would have loved to have seen what they did with it. But after Actraiser 2, it may well not quite have been what I was hoping for, which will eventually lead me into talking about Actraiser 2. We'll get there in a moment, but first of all, let me just wrap up this game. So I gave this game 4 stars. I feel like 4.5 stars is a very acceptable score, but I wanted to leave myself a star of rating because there are going to be games that I know for a fact are going to get that 5-star rating. Things like Super Mario World, and this isn't as good as Super Mario World, but it is amazing. So I gave it 4 stars. I really encourage people to have a look at it. It's so much fun, and this may be one of the easiest answers that I've had to give to could this be someone's favourite game on the Super Nintendo? Absolutely, 100%. If I had bought this game as a kid, I would have put hours and hours into it. Admittedly, there may be not much in the way of a replay value. The game is the same all the way through, but I just think that I would have completed it and then gone back and completed it again and again because of just the fun of watching it all happen when you're building these towns. And I just think it really would have captured my imagination. And yeah, so 100%, this would have been someone's, probably quite a lot of people's favourite game on the Super Nintendo. The most fun I've had so far doing this, and as I said before, it is one that I will be going back to, no question at all. I will be playing this game time and time again, because I just had that much fun with it. Which leads me into the second part of today's episode, Actraiser 2, and the disappointment that this game gave me. I just can't state it enough, and let me explain why. Okay, so Actraiser 2. I'm going to bypass the credits for this game because they are identical to Actraiser. All the same people worked on it, and that there's nothing else I need to say about that one. I will go into the box art, as I always do, and then I'm going to get into this game. So actually, the one thing I will give this game is I do think the box art is a little bit more interesting. There's a really nice, vibrant picture on the front. The Actraiser logo's there, but with a nice big red 2 next to it. The picture is a vista, a very fantastical vista, a huge tower in the distance. Lightning again. That's I'm guessing the god theme of it. Some nice sun god rays. And then an angel in the foreground, which I assume is meant to be you. You're a god, but this isn't the cherub. This is a man with big angel wings. And the tagline is 100% pure action and excitement, which is true. And I'll get into that. Back of the box, similar to the last game. 4 nice, vibrant pictures on the back. The legacy continues. Every once in a while, a game comes out that is so good people can't stop talking about it. A game that seems to rise above the others. Actraiser for the SNES was that game. We don't need to remind you of how good the graphics were. We don't have to tell you about the music. We could have just sat back and been satisfied with the recognition it's received. Instead, we decided to make something even better. Actraiser 2. We've improved the graphics, improved the sound, and created a game we're confident will once again set the standard for all SNES games. Underneath that it says, he's back, and then some story blurb underneath. So, I'm going to say it's accurate, because it is accurate. The graphics are incredible. The sound and music are both incredible. So the game, the box art is accurate, and it would have caught my eye as a kid, 100%. I would have been interested in this game for sure. The problem I have is the direction they went when they're saying 100% pure action and excitement. So Actraiser 2 completely eliminated the God game. Gone. It's all a 2D hack and slash that looks fantastic, sounds fantastic. It's a huge, huge step above. So this game came out in October 93 in Japan, November 93 in America, and November 94 over here. So quite a big gap between the Japanese release, but only a year for us between the two games. So the jump in graphics and sound in that year would have been incredible. But the drop in gameplay, because the hack and slash levels, which is all the game is, the controls are horrible. So the game starts with this cutscene, a really nice cutscene. Like I say, it looks incredible. You dive down, big swoop down with these angel wings out, and land through this cutscene. It's very dramatic, it's very fantastic, and it sets the scene. And I thought, yes, here we go. You start in your Sky Palace, just like you do with Actraiser. You possess a statue, just like you do in Actraiser. So I get this first level. I'm like, let's get this out of the way. Let's see how amazing the God game aspect looks. So fighting through the first level, and instantly I'm thinking, well, the controls are a little bit shit, but I don't want to just say, forget this. I'm going to fight through it because my favourite part's coming. And so I do. And the problem with the controls are they feel quite heavy, and the jump is now tied in with this weird swooping mechanic with your wings, where you sort of double jump, but that second jump, you open your wings up and you kind of swoop down. Imagine the cape in Mario World, where you swoop down with the cape. But imagine that if it had absolutely no control whatsoever, and also you were expected to land on platforms that were about as wide as you, and also when you land you skid forwards for a bit as well. That is what you're kind of dealing with this swoop mechanic, but you have to use it to make certain jumps. There was points where I was getting so stuck because I could not figure out how to get further. It was just overly hard because of the poor mechanics of the game. But I fought through. Like I say, it looked incredible. The boss sprite at the end looked great. I fought my way through. The level ended and I was like, okay, let's get into this then. And then the next level starts. And so I'm thinking, okay, well maybe there's back-to-back levels and you do a bit of God game stuff afterwards. No, the God game stuff is gone. It is just the 2D hack and slash. And it was so disappointing because not only was it the worst part of Actraiser, but they've made it even worse with these horrible clunky controls that I could not get my head around. There's horrible knockback as well. So you've got to use this swoop mechanic to land on these small platforms while you're being attacked. And these small platforms have death pits either side of them. So one hit, knockback, instant death. I got so frustrated with this game. I've said before that I'm using save states. So I'm not hiding that at all. Save state, I tried to do my jump. Fail. Even when I got past the jumps, the levels are just, with the clunky controls and the monsters that, again, look amazing, but just cause you so much damage. It's so hard. I ended up going one step further with this game and trying to find some action replay codes that I could use, which I did. So I set up my character to be invincible because I wanted to experience the game. I wanted to see how this game played out. I was on level 3, I think, at this point, and I could not get past. Problem was, invincibility doesn't stop you from dying when you fall down an instant death pit. So this particular part where I had to land this jump whilst being attacked and whilst getting knocked back, I couldn't do it. I could not get past it no matter what. And it got to a point where I was getting so angry with this game, and I knew that there was, because I did a bit of research on it as well after this point, just to double check that I wasn't going to miss something like the God game came in later on, a bit of end game or something. So I found out it was definitely out of the game. It was frustrating me to a point. I just gave up. I gave up. I packed it in, and I just couldn't continue it because it just frustrated me too much. And it's really disappointing that it frustrated me that much because I loved the first game. But no, I couldn't do any more than I'd done. I tapped out. That was that. So at that point, I decided to have a look and see if I could find some reviews. And I started to think I was going a bit crazy because a lot of the reviews were very positive. So I'll have a look at some of these now. So once again, I found quite a lot about this one in the magazines. I found a preview of the game Soul Blazer, which in this particular magazine was called Soul Blader, and it mentioned the game may end up being called Actraiser 2 in the States. That never actually happened, and Soul Blazer came out with that particular title. It was mentioned twice in Super Play of August 93, both times claiming this is the one we've been waiting for. There was a lot of hype surrounding this game because of how well received the first game was, where they said the gurus of Enix have listened to EGM and produced a version of the award-winning action epic Actraiser Son's adventure sequences. The battles in this game are truly addictive, giving way to some of the most fluid animation you'll ever see out of a home system. Great stuff from beginning to end. So, after gaining back a little bit of respect from me with the Actraiser reviews, apparently it's all their fault. So EGM can do one because they fucked this game for me, if that's true. So yeah, fuck them, because without those strategy aspects, it's just not a good game. There was a preview in Game Pro October 93, and the EGM November 93 issue gave it the following ratings. Again, they have 4 different people. We're each giving it a rating and each giving it a little bit of what they thought. So the first writer gave it a 9, being the sequel to one of the most popular of the Super NES lineup. You'd expect it to remain relatively the same. I was slightly disappointed by the fact that the overhead scenes were taken out, but if you go beyond that and look at it as an action game, it's great. The only problems that are apparent are that the control needed to get used to, and the game is filled with lots of one-hit deaths. Still a decent game. Does that sound like a 9? That doesn't sound like a 9. Next writer gave it an 8. The game is quite a shock. I was thrilled with the original Actraiser and thought it couldn't be beat. Until now. This cart is packed with beautiful graphics, killer sound, and enough action to keep anyone happy for days. I do miss the overhead scenes from the original, but this one will do nicely. The only problem I had with the game was the awkward control to fly. It does take a while to get used to. Yeah, no shit, so why did you give it an 8? That's a huge problem, because the whole game is that. Next writer, the cart is absolutely phenomenal. The graphic and audio quality of this game is a total step above the original. The screen explodes with detailed backgrounds, huge animated bosses, and vivid colours. Look for tons of hidden techniques and strategies because the gameplay is as good as gold. The game is very hard, but if you're game, this one will offer the challenges that veteran gamers have been waiting for. A 9 again. And the final writer, another 9. From the opening music, reminiscent of the original Actraiser, you just know this game is going to be special, and Actraiser 2 didn't disappoint. Everything in this game is exceptional, from the hauntingly beautiful music to the graphics. This is a game you'd be proud to add to any collection. The city's building scenes are gone, so it's all action, but there's enough new combat skills involved to compensate. So, they all gave it very high scores, but all seemed disappointed that the strategy element was gone, even though in the preview they said that that's what they wanted. So I just feel like they don't know what they were doing in that magazine at all. Game Pro's November 93 edition gave it a 2-page review, gave graphics a 5, sound a 4.5, control a 3.5, and fun factor a 4.5. Controls are being mentioned a lot in these reviews, about how difficult they are, how awkward they are, which I completely agree with, but no one's really making out that that's a huge thing, where I would 100% consider it a very, very big problem. There was also a preview in Superplay December 93 issue, and they finally gave it a full 2-page review in February of 94, and this is what Superplay had to say about the game. Hear me, O my people. In the beginning was the game, and the game was called Actraiser. Praise it with great praise. It mixed action and simulation, and through this blessed unity did transcend the two. Its people worshipped it and prayed for a second coming. And so it came to pass that a sequel was created in answer to the prayers of the people. Actraiser II descended from the heavens, assuming a material corporeality, so that the inhabitants of the earthly plane might play and enjoy it. And lo, they found it to be a bit crap. I'd like to quote Paul Bowler, Enix of America's sales manager, from a recent press release. We feel an action game caters to the largest available audience, although we liked the concept of combining two very different formats. We felt there was a larger demand for the highest quality graphics and music a SNES game had to offer. In other words, they thought they could sell more cartridges if they abandoned the gameplay and concentrated on flashy presentation. It also implies the majority of SNES owners are rather stupid, preferring a platform game to something slightly more complex and involving. I tried to keep an open mind, after all the creators of the first game were involved, and with 3 years of experience under their stylish leather soul belts, they might be just the people to come up with a definitive platform slash-em-up for the SNES. The game has a truly impressive opening. Our winged hero cleaves the stratosphere with his sword, while shafts of sunlight pierce through the clouds in the manner of a Michelangelo mural. The music also pushes the SNES to its limits with a full stereo score reminiscent of Wagner or some other overinflated Teutonic romanticism. It's a sort of intro that has you itching to get started. Strangely enough, that's the exact same point at which the disappointment sets in. Your hero has a range of special moves and attacks, all of them needing skill and practice. Magic points permitting, he can also perform offensive spells against his foes. It all looks good until the monsters descend upon you in droves. Then you appreciate the limits of the gameplay, walk, slice, walk, hack, and occasionally, if you're lucky, walk, hack, jump, hack. There are no puzzles, no secret bits, and nothing remotely taxing to the brain, which is after all what Enix wanted. The pacing of the game is uneven, the enemies are incredulously stupid, and most of the bosses are so ludicrously easy that you'll jump back in your seat and think, was that it? Having killed them, they just fizzle out. No big rewarding explosions or animated death throws for your troubles. Difficulty levels? Well, sort of. Put it on hard and the monsters take more hits, reappearing 3 seconds later. Yes, a screen can reset whilst you're still in it. Sometimes a ghost will materialise on top of you, but when it's not easy, it's just plain frustrating. There's no challenge here at all, and most of the time a simple sword hack makes your special attacks redundant. Bad call, Enix. Actraiser 2 is a real letdown, and you'd be better off reading a Michael Moorcock novel whilst listening to Tristan and Isolde. Am I alone in perceiving a marked downturn in the quality of recent SNES games? Is it because the marketing people, not the innovators and designers, are now calling the shots? Graphics 91%, sound 95%, gameplay 72%, game life 54%, overall 69 nice %. A disappointing step backwards, it might boast 12 megs of audio-visual splendour, but shouldn't there be a game in there somewhere too? And now I feel slightly validated, because finally, after all these fantastic reviews, this one comes along and mirrors pretty much all my thoughts about this game. And so I do feel a bit validated in my disappointment, because there were other people that felt the same. And also it's quite interesting to hear the people in 1994 complaining about the quality of games on a downturn because marketing people, not innovators and designers, are calling the shots more, which is exactly what we see now. The studios, the heads of the studios are making these decisions, and the innovators and the people that create the games are getting less and less control. And I feel like maybe it's a bit of a peaks and troughs situation where you will get all of this and then there'll be a bit of a crash, and that the innovators will have a bit more control, and then success comes back to these games, and then that's when the marketing people want to go get involved again. It's all happened before, it will all happen again. But yeah, that was my take on that review, and I'm glad that somebody else thought the same as I did. So there you have it. That is Actraiser 2, a massively disappointing follow-up to an incredibly great game. 100% play Actraiser. I fully recommend it to everyone. Have a look at Actraiser 2. If you really like hack and slash games, you might enjoy it. It looks amazing. It sounds incredible, but that really is as far as it goes. It's all style and no substance. So by all means, check it out, please. But I would love to hear people's thoughts on the original Actraiser, especially if you played it when it came out. Let me know what you thought of it when it came out, or Actraiser 2 for that matter. Maybe you never played Actraiser and you played Actraiser 2 thinking that's all it was. I would like to hear people's thoughts on these games that I talk about, if they have played them in the past. So yeah, that is that. Actraiser 2, could it have been someone's favourite? Of course it could have been. There's no question. With the reviews that it got, people would have bought this in droves, and people would have loved it. Of course they would. But I think going back to back with Actraiser 1 just killed all that interest for me. And yeah, I just had no interest in carrying on playing it. So that's that on that. I gave it a 1 star, I think. I don't think I gave it half a star. I think I gave it 1 star just because of the fact that it does look gorgeous. But that really is it. That's the only reason I gave it that. And that's the end of that. That's the end of another episode, a double bill. next time I will be moving on to Addams Family. And you've had 2 double bills in a row. Well, next week is a triple bill, because I figured I might as well do the 3 SNES Addams Family games in one go. The first of which is one game, the first game in the series so far that I have nostalgic ties for. And I love the original Addams Family game on the SNES. It's not amazing by any stretch. It's very basic 2D platformer, but I loved it. I owned it, and so I went back and played it again. So I am playing the Addams Family, the Addams Family Pugsley's Scavenger Hunt. Less said about that the better, but we'll get into that next time. And Addams Family Values. Those 3 games will be talked about in the next episode. But for now, that's all I've got to say. I've gone on far too long, so I will finish up by saying please do check out the rest of the Channel 84 lot. The Variety Show with Tom and Rob, and the Untitled Sci-Fi Show with Rob and Tom, Who Takes the Socks Off with Simon and Ross, and Lightly Used with Adam and Karen. Please do check all of those shows out. You'll find them all on the Channel 84 website and also on various social media. My social media is just Blue Sky Jimbo86. That's Jimbo, the number 8, the letter E, the number 6, or just search for Super A to Z. And if you want to email me for whatever reason, I have an email address now, superaz@channel84.co.uk. And the blog post for this will be going onto the channel84.co.uk page at some point, hopefully the same day this goes live, but if not, it'll be a little bit later, but will be coming very, very soon. And you'll be able to check out all the box art that I looked at, some screenshots, and all those magazine reviews and previews and things that I talked about as well. So yeah, thank you very much for sticking with me for this long. Hope it was all right. Hope you enjoyed it. And yeah, do get in touch if you are interested in any of these games or any upcoming games, any games that you're interested in and waiting for me to talk about. And I will speak to you next time. Thank you. Take care. Bye-bye.
This was a Studio Channel 84 network show. To find more, head over to channel84.co.uk now.